Howdy, I'm Robert McKay. You saw what the name of the channel is, which you might have already known. You know, it's hard to believe you didn't. The way YouTube displays it, you see the name of the channel just as well, if in smaller type, as the name of the video, title of the video. Two things I want to mention before I get into what I'm actually doing, and by the way, this will be a sipping and talking video. You may or may not be aware that I have that playlist, because now I'm sure YouTube isn't doing this with me much, if at all, but it throws up random videos for you. It says, hey, look at this, hey, look at that, and you may not even know there is a playlist. But it's a sipping and talking video, so I'll be sipping and I'll be talking. First thing that, this is something that I've thought of before, is how when you're looking at a picture, whether a still picture or a moving picture, all you can see is what is within the frame. You have no idea what's over here out of frame. You have no idea what's over here, what's up here, what's down here. I look fully dressed. I ain't. I got the shirt on, but I'm wearing shorts. And that ain't fully dressed, not by my standards. You know, for all you know, over here there's 49 black widows just a-staring at me, and over here 22 rattlesnakes. They ain't, but there ain't no way for you to tell it. And there's no way for you to tell what I'm a-looking at over here. Pictures are that way, and that's one of the reasons doing this, seeing the world through your phone, is just absolutely asinine. You're missing everything except what's there. You're missing almost everything. Other thing I want to mention briefly is she's a-blowing outside. Spring in Albuquerque is windy, and we had some wind in the spring. We had the dust blow up from the bottoms of the Rio Grande. El Rio Grande, the big river, which in this part of the world it is. But we also had kind of a monsoon deal going on in the spring, and now that it is monsoon season, which is roughly June, July, and August, it doesn't necessarily begin right at the beginning of June. It doesn't necessarily end at the end of August, but that's the general pattern. Generally, you don't have so much wind in monsoon season except right before the storm hits, and maybe during the storm. So who knows what's going on. What I really want to talk about, why don't I get a brain and learn how to use it? What I really want to talk about involves this stuff. This is Bluff Springs Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, small batch, expertly crafted. This is a 90 proof bourbon. I believe it comes from Heaven Hill, although I can't prove it. It says that it is bottled by Bluff Springs Spirits Incorporated, Bardstown, Kentucky. Well, that means the people who bottle it are not distilling it. Who's distilling it? They don't say. I believe it's Heaven Hill because of the peanut shells on the nose. I got this on the 19th of May of 2026. I add the year because you may be watching this in 2092. At Total Wine, cost me $24.99, a 25-buck bourbon. And I have taken, and it looks awkward to y'all. To me, it works best. I've taken to pouring my whiskey for these videos like so. I can judge better if I do this, what the level is in the glass. I just have to either move the phone or move the glass. But it's easier for me to pour like this, so that's what I do. Now, why is this part of what I'm going to talk about? because I've been looking for Buffalo Trace yesterday and today. The reason I drink Bluff Springs to begin with is a guy at the Uptown Total Wine here in Albuquerque. One time when I was looking for Buffalo Trace before I'd ever tasted it, recommended this as a good alternative. Now I've gotten, I believe, 5 recommendations from Total Wine employees. One I have stuck with. There was one, and I can't remember what it was, that was okay, but what was it? It was a Scottish whiskey, tasted like apples, was one of their store brands. That's what they always want to recommend. But I'm just not a Scotch guy, and the longer I go, the less I want that style of whiskey. So it was okay. In fact, it was good, but I won't be buying it again probably. And the other 3 were all horrible. I couldn't stand them. But this one is good. And when I finally got a chance to try Buffalo Trace, I figured this was better than Buffalo Trace. But that's been a few years ago. And it occurred to me that I ought to do a blind with Bluff Springs and Buffalo Trace. Well, the past couple of years or so, Buffalo Trace has been easy to find. Last time I was at Total Wine, I saw it on the shelf. Last time I was at Kelly Liquors, I saw it on the shelf. Yesterday I went to Total Wine. I say yesterday, it is almost 1 a.m. on Friday the 12th. No, I take that back. It is almost 1 a.m. on Thursday the 11th of June. So it was Wednesday. I was off Wednesday and Thursday, so I was right the first time, Friday. It is almost 1 o'clock on Friday the 12th. On Wednesday, I went to Total Wine, looked for it, didn't get it. On today, what I call today, Thursday, I went to Kelly Liquors and didn't find it. And also in both places, I looked for the new 7-year edition of Old Granddad 114. Have never seen that. Robert Burns said in a much more real, because he was Scottish accent, he said, "The best laid plans of mice and men gang after gley," which in English means the best laid plans of mice and men often go astray. They do. The one thing you can be certain will happen is something you didn't expect. There's an episode of Monk, and I'll take a sip of that eventually, don't worry. It's Sippin and Talkin. There's an episode of Monk where David Rashke is playing a high school gym teacher whose son is a bully, and the character, David Rashke's character, tells Monk, "When you least expect me, expect me." That's about how life works. Whatever you don't expect is going to happen, and whatever you do expect ain't going to happen. Your plans are going to go all awry, and you just got to deal with it. That's life. I mean, it's got them peanut shells in there. Now, I have to confess that that first sip of the Buffalo Trace, of the Bluff Springs, seemed a little weak to me. But then my previous glass was larceny barrel proof, 126 proof. So that's 36 proof points difference. If I had had this first, it wouldn't seem weak, because it's 90 proof, which is acceptable to me. Peanut shells. And not everybody gets the peanut shells here, just like not everybody gets a Flintstones vitamin note on the palate of Georgia Dickel whiskey. And not everybody gets a nuttiness on the palate of just about anything from Jim Beam. That's a nice, sweet, fruity bourbon. Now, I like what seem like opposite ends of the spectrum. I like a sweet and fruity whiskey, and I like a dark and earthy whiskey. I like Old Granddad 114, which to me is fruity. Although it's a high rye mash bill, it comes across as fruity to me. I also like Lone Elm wheat whiskey, both the small batch and the single barrel, which is very dark, very earthy in the profile. And I'm not just talking about color, although this is 90 proof. They tempered it down a fair bit, and so it doesn't have a deep color. That Lone Elm is about as dark as coffee, maybe not quite that dark. I think I've done videos with it. But it's not the color I'm talking about, it's the profile, it's the impression. And here we get into the subjectiveness of this whole whiskey deal. Now, if the only reason you're drinking whiskey is to get blasted, I don't know why you're watching this channel, because it ain't for you. I have nothing to do with people who want to just get boiled. You know, if that's why you're drinking whiskey, I don't understand why you're drinking whiskey anyways. If your whole goal is to wind up plastered, buy a bottle of Everclear, water it down yourself to whatever strength you like, throw it back, and be done with it. Don't waste money on whiskey, which has more to it than just alcohol. And of course, now I say this as someone with experience. I have been drunk. When I was in Korea back in 1979, before I met my wife, I was drunk every chance I got. So I can tell you with the voice of experience, that is the stupidest thing you can do with alcohol. I missed so much enjoyment of aroma and flavor by just using it as a drunkenness delivery system. That's stupid. Don't do it. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your money. Get high on life, folks. If you can't get high on life, you have a problem. I'm serious. Because there is so much glory and beauty and amazement just in life. Well, I'm poor, then why are you getting drunk? If you can afford that, you ain't all that poor. Alcohol's luxury. But I am digressing from a digression of a digression, so. Now, it's been a while since I've had any Buffalo Trace, which is also a 90 proof bourbon. But I remember back when I had recently tasted this and I tasted Buffalo Trace, I did find them very similar. Fruity, sweet, not overly strong. It's only 90 proof. And by the way, if you're new to whiskey, the proof system in the United States is that proof is twice the alcohol by volume. The alcohol by volume is half of the proof. So 90 proof, divide that by 2, it's 45% alcohol by volume. 45% alcohol by volume multiply by 2, and you have 90 proof. And on that, now I'll be honest, I use a calculator for things. No matter how hard I try, I have never in my life been good at math. But if you can't do that little bit of math in your head, either your head is more messed up than mine, or somebody failed to teach you what you need to know in life. You're not educated and you need to go study it on your own. One of those two. So I would like to do a blind between this bottle and Marianne Moore said poetry is imaginary gardens with real toads in them. I got a real platform with an imaginary bottle on it. But my goal is to blind these two. It obviously is single blind since I know which two. But I'll pour them both when I have both on hand at the same time. And probably about the time this runs out, I'll find Buffalo Trace again. But I'll pour a little bit of this into one Boston bottle, pour a little bit of the other into another Boston bottle, set them aside until I plumb forgot which is which, pour them into glasses, taste them side by side, and see A, which one I prefer, which I expect will be this one, and B, can I even tell them apart? If I can't, well, I'll still keep on buying Bluff Springs because I can always find it. And I am not a fan of the Buffalo Trace Distillery, not just because so much of their whiskey is so unavailable and or so expensive for whiskey that is not all that extraordinarily wonderful, but also because they're just running a con on us. Now, yeah, the secondary market has a part, but Buffalo Trace is one of the biggest distilleries there is, and yet so much of their stuff is allocated. They're not releasing it. They're trying to get the big bucks for whiskey that isn't worth the big bucks. You know, if they release Blanton's as much as they could at a reasonable, well, they could probably keep the suggested retail price where it is, and it might be fair. Although in my opinion, Blanton's is about a $30 whiskey. I've had a taste of it. You know, E.H. Taylor isn't all that special. What else have I had of theirs? I can't remember. Oh, I've had Eagle Rare. It isn't all that special. I mean, it's not bad stuff. Don't get me wrong. It does not nearly match up to the hype, the level of energy and time you need to get it, or the price you have to pay for it. This stuff, as I say, unless my mind is really playing me tricks, is just as good as Buffalo Trace bourbon. Easier to find, cheaper. But my plan is to blind them, and as I've said, my plan went bloop. So, I have sipped and I have talked, and y'all have probably said over and over, closed face. So, here's to y'all for putting up to me. By the way, 86 subscribers to the channel as I speak. I appreciate every single one of y'all. I know I've stole this from Casey Allen, and I say it over and over, but it's true. You could be doing anything else. You could be hitting yourself in the head with a hammer and maybe enjoying it more. But here you are watching this video. Thank you.